Hey, what's up, everybody? Empire, A New History of the World by Paul Strathern. It's about time we get into some world history on this channel. This review goes out to a YouTube channel called Read by Fred, which features a wide variety of great book-related content, but it was watching his history book videos that inspired me to go out and get some history books. So thank you to Read by Fred. If you love books, definitely go check out his channel. Okay, then so Paul Strathern has written quite a number of books which seem to focus mostly on philosophy and world history. Empire, one of his most recent books, is about the circumstances and events surrounding the rise and fall of 10 different empires around the world through history. These empires are presented one chapter at a time in a mostly chronologically linear order, starting with the Akkadian Empire. Then we go to the Roman Empire, the Umayyad and Abbasid Caliphates. Is that how you pronounce that? The Mongol Empire, the Yuan Dynasty, the Aztec Empire, the Ottoman Empire, the British Empire, the Russian Empire, and then the final chapter is called the American Empire. If you're thinking, oh, he left out such and such empire, well, I'm right there with you. Personally, I was hoping for chapters on the Japanese Empire and the Khmer Empire, but this is not that big a book, and for the scope that this book sets for itself, I felt it did a fairly good job. And this is coming from a guy who hasn't read much history, and I think that's probably the best audience for this book. The author does a good job of painting descriptions of these places and people and events, and you'll likely be doing a lot of Googling while reading this book because the material is just really interesting. Empire was like a platter of appetizers, 239 pages divided by 11 chapters, counting the introduction, only gives us an average of 21 pages per chapter. So, on chapters you really enjoyed, you'll still be hungry afterward, probably more so than you were to begin with. And this can be very good or bad depending on how you felt about each chapter, but it does make for an entertaining book for a person who hasn't read much on these empires yet. This book does contain a lot of interesting information and is very likely to make you want to learn more about these places, so the appetizer analogy is pretty fitting here. While overall I did enjoy the book, it does have some peculiarities that I need to mention. First, it can feel a little all over the place and unfocused at times. In the span of one page, he might jump around from events from 4 different time periods and sometimes in no organized manner, and then in the next sentence be talking about something totally unrelated, so it can be easy to lose focus with this book. The author also mentions sideways history multiple times. Instead of just relaying information chronologically, the author will be talking about several different societies within a given time period. And this was done more effectively, but it's all the different approaches that the author uses that creates a slightly disjointed product. Add to that the fact that a lot of information is delivered in a short space, and I was thinking, I bet this guy has ADD. That's how it felt reading this. Then there was one more glaring issue that stood out. There were a few times in this book when the author would make a statement that was different from what I've read elsewhere. So I look it up, and sure enough, what he wrote is not true. A couple of examples. He wrote that the Moai statues of Easter Island all faced east. I read elsewhere that they faced inland with an exception. And he also wrote that the Neanderthals had a smaller cranial capacity than Homo sapiens. This is not true. And there was some other questionable stuff in here, but I wasn't about to look up every claim he makes in the book. This kind of thing can really spoil a reading experience. When it comes to history, he mostly sounds like he knows what he's talking about. It's just that there's a few facts that are off. And it makes you wonder where he got that information. And this is not an old book, it came out in 2020. There are sources listed at the end, but I didn't see the sources for the ones that I checked for. Then, in the acknowledgments, he addresses the notion that there might be some inaccurate information in this book, and he says that he takes full responsibility for any mistakes. I've never seen something like this in a book before, but I don't always read the acknowledgments. So, besides that, I thought the book was pretty entertaining. My favorite chapters were the Mongol Empire, the Yuan Dynasty, and the Aztec Empire. And I thought it was interesting to see some of the differences and the common factors in these empires and all the different cultures involved. However, because of the problems I mentioned, I don't think I'll be reading more books by this author, but I will be looking for more material on some of the stuff mentioned in this book. On this channel, we're interested in discovering what is or what was, and there's just very little room for inaccuracy. But I'm certainly looking forward to reading more history. Okay, that's it for this one, guys. Thank you for watching. I hope you enjoyed the video. And if you're interested in getting a taste of history and you don't quite know where you'd like to start, you might be interested in checking out Empire by Paul Strathern.